everyone. My name is Marielle Woods. I'm a director and alumni of Salute Your Shorts Fest. I've had the pleasure of 2 films screening with them. Most recently, my AFI directing workshop for women film called Spin.
And hi, my name is Martina Lee. I'm the director of Black Boy Joy that's currently in the festival this year.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be talking with you. What a beautiful film.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I saw that this was made through Project Involve.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like and what that program is?
Yeah, sure. Project Involve is a program that it's for mostly underrepresented communities of people of color, women, so forth. You have to apply to their program, and then they pick 5 or 6 directors, cinematographers, editors, writers, producers, and creative executives.
Wow.
And so they kind of work kind of like top down, kind of like a small studio system where the executives, the creative executives, the writers pitch kind of ideas to the creative executives, and then they write scripts, and then producers get attached to them, and then directors have to pitch their vision of the story, and then they pick the director for each of the for each of the shorts that year.
So when you came onto this project, was there was already a producer, a writer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an interesting program.
Yeah, it was definitely a really interesting program to kind of get you used to that kind of process.
Right.
Because usually in independent cinema, you just kind of like ask your friends around. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, hey, buddy,
now that we know each other, I'm gonna be like, hey.
Exactly. Yeah, like, yeah, dude, can you come this weekend? It'd be really cool. Like, hold the boom for me.
Yeah.
So it was just nice to have a very structured system to kind of like do a film with, and that's the first time that I've done that. So yeah.
And so you pitched on this script.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious if you would be willing to share like what your pitch was, because
sure.
Such a vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first initially read the script, I was really moved by the characters in the story of this like 3 generations of men, and for when and it kind of dealing with toxic masculinity and like what does it mean to be a man, and what does it mean to raise Black sons. There were things that were very much close to my close to what I know, and I did another short called Blueberry that's kind of similar themed, very different because it's a comedy, but it's very similar themed. And so it was so when I pitched it, it was really just like I kind of started off with colors, and I kind of started off with the characters and like how I saw the characters really, and then I really just kind of like my vision. It always comes through actual painting, like because I used to be a painter, so it's usually like I think of like colors and.
Oh, that makes so much sense, because the next question I was going to ask you was about your production design, which is I love the color palette and the sets. And is that someone you brought on to your team?
Yeah, we brought on to our team after we kind of got everything assembled. That's the one person that wasn't in the initial 6 people in Project Involved. We kind of hired outside of that, and she was really, really great. And I basically just gave her the color palette and kind of gave her a very specific of what I wanted, and she definitely delivered. And it was really great to work with her. It was really great collaboration. And anything that she didn't know, she would always ask questions about. So anything like specifically like concerning, and we even had conversations about like the Black experience, because she wasn't Black. And so dealing with 3 Black men, there was times where she was like, okay, so would they have this in their house? And like the specificity of like making sure that, you know, you have things that are in the house that would actually really be there. And for things I didn't know, like, you know, like how men brush their hair, or like what kind of products they use, and like would they have it in their bathroom, are things that I asked also the men that we worked on that project. So it's very much a collaborative effort in terms of like making it as specific as possible. And also the production design, I leaned heavily on like I grew up with my grandfather, and so like I just remembered that his house was like, and I just kind of drew on all of these like little things that were kind of made me think about me growing up in that house, and that's the house that I kind of wanted to kind of put in the movie as well.
Well, something that you've been touching on quite a bit, and I do definitely want to come back to your background in painting because that's so interesting. But since we're on this kind of thrust of a storyline, I'm so curious. We so frequently get women's stories told from a male writer and a male director, and it is so rare for us, and hopefully will become less rare, to get a story that is about 3 generations of Black men told by, and correct me if I'm wrong, a female identifying writer and director.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you can talk a little bit about that process and taking that on.
I mean, like I said before, this was very much in my wheelhouse. My other film also dealt with fatherhood and a boy and his father. So that was very much something that I was already in the wheelhouse of what I'm used to dealing with. And I think I was talking to another friend of mine about this, and we were saying how as long as you're like, I feel very much connected to that story because I am a Black woman who deals with Black men in our in my world, right? So I have like, you know, we have Black fathers, we have brothers, we have uncles, so we see the struggles that Black men actually have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and we also champion them. Like Black women are the biggest champion of Black men. The one, you know, like if you look at the state of the world right now, like Black women are behind the scenes of everything that we do, championing the lives of Black men. So holding space and holding love and holding a very specific type of story for them is very easy for me, and very easy for me and the writer. And the things that were connected to me about it were this, and ultimately I think the story is really about love and different types of how people, like different ways in which people receive love and give love. And that's universal, you know what I mean? I think that's something that we can all connect to. And so the way that Otis loves his son is different than how Miles loves his son. And that's something that was definitely something that rang true for me in my personal life. And so it's when thinking about the characters of Black men, it's really just about finding the nuances of those specific characters and making them ring through. And also, like, you know, obviously if there's something that I don't know about, I'm like, hey dude, like what do you do? Like, what kind of brush do you wear? Like, would you brush your hair this way or that way? And so
it's so interesting too, because the piece is in a way about the absence of the feminine presence, right? Like the mother is gone, and there are moments that are so touching and endearing about seeing this father have to take on roles that might not have come as naturally to him in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
How did you work with your young actor in terms of drawing out, you know, you're dealing with autism, which is a very specific set of, I'm not an expert, and I'm so curious how you as a director work with an actor to bring that out.
Sure. I mean, I did some research on my own first, and I spoke to a lot of people that had kids with autism. I spoke with a sister with a brother that had autism, and I specifically asked questions about loss and how, and also like autism is a spectrum, right? So it's like it goes from, you know, so not every kid looks the same, and not everything is the same. So it's really, for me, it was really about making choices for the character to make that character as specific as possible. So it's like, oh, so what type of, like, what kind of things does attract to him? Like, what kind of things makes him calm down, or makes him excited? Or is it like the things that he touches, or the things that he hears? And like, what is it, the thing, like, you know, so it's really about the very the very specificity of the character that I had to kind of figure out myself. And then when I brought Evan on, I worked with Evan on the other movie that I did. So me and him I already kind of knew him. And so we kind of already worked together before. And I really have like, I was really worried about it because I wanted to make sure I got it right, and it wasn't false, right? So we basically had like a separate rehearsal outside and I came up with I came up with a system of different levels of agitation, and because he's like, you know, he's 10-year-old kid. We talked about we talked about the character, we talked about all of that stuff, but really I was trying to get the physicality of it down. And so I really was thinking about levels. And when we got on set, I would talk to him about levels. And so when I would say, hey, you're at a level 2 in this scene, and so he'll be like, okay, cool. And I'll remind him that he can't, like, kids with autism don't necessarily look at people a lot. Right. And so the biggest thing for him was like making sure he doesn't look at his actors, his co-stars. He's such a he's like the opposite of the kid in the movie, right? He's like such a kid that's like wants to interact with everyone, and he's so engaged, and he like wants to like look at everyone, and he's like an active actor, you know what I mean? So a lot of times I was like, Evan, you can't look at him, you know what I mean? So I mean, basically, so it's just like those, like making very specific choices in terms of behavior that was really helpful in making sure that we kind of made that nuance as nuanced as possible for a short.
So I want to get back to your background as a painter, which is so apparent in this film. How does that background affect the way you direct and work as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of, I think it affects me largely just because of how I think about. I don't think about it in terms of shots. Like, you know, some people are very much into like, oh, this is going to be a low angle, or oh, we're going to do this on a 50 millimeter, or oh, we're, you know, like all this technical stuff. But for me, it's all about emotion and colors, and yeah, just really like figuring out what those colors mean, and like having purpose, and making sure that everything in the frame has purpose, so that it's very thoughtful, kind of, you know, like a painting. Like you put all the colors on it, and then there's each color, it will like kind of represent something. And for me, I think that's really kind of what like my background in painting, like kind of definitely kind of comes into that as well. I think, and also I think like when I'm working with actors, it's really also about, it's really a super collaborative process. Like directors, a good director has really great actors. A really good director has a good team. A really good director doesn't just do it by themselves. And so I think the collaboration of the Black Boy Joy team was really what made this movie amazing. In terms of like how we kind of all collaborated together and like kind of made this movie what it was. And so I think, I hope I'm answering the question.
No, you totally did. It's making me wonder, were those moments where the slow motion shots of the characters looking up against a very specific wallpaper, were those written into the script?
They were not written into the script, actually. They were, our DP, he shoots a lot, and he had this idea, and we kind of ran with it. And so I like that idea of, well, and then we thought about like, okay, we can't just have one person doing it. We should have all of them doing it. It's really a story about all of them. And so we knew that we shot all of it, and it was kind of, we weren't sure where we were going to put it in the film. And then our editor was basically like, okay, he edited it together and figured out where would be appropriate to place it. And so that was a very much a collaborative effort of like,
wow, that's amazing. I really would have assumed that was all premeditated. The way that it feels is feels that it was.
Yeah, it was definitely like a collaborative effort of like, we wanted to have these 3 distinctive characters, because they all kind of go through a very specific change, and you know, kind of in the story.
And how talk to me about the editing process for you. How much of it do you as a director predetermine versus find it in the bay? I know everyone has different
yeah, I mean, I think the editing process for me for this was, I think we kind of were kind of working at it like cut by cut, and I just kind of was, he would send me cuts and I would look at them and try to figure out how we could cut it down. And for me, it was really about taking what was on the page and trying to elevate it as much as possible. And a lot of the times it was like a lot of the things that were on the page or that we shot, we actually like took out because it was just like less was more for me. And the less that we did, I think the better and stronger the piece felt to me.
Yeah.
The scene specifically in the argument, there was a lot more dialogue in that scene, and we cut a lot of it out because we just didn't need it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was just
I
like,
do know that.
yeah, like we just cut it because it was like we don't need to like. And I also think because the characters were men and men don't necessarily talk to each other about their feelings, like generally speaking. So like having them talk about their feelings in that moment, I didn't feel like they would really do that then. I felt like we could just cut it out and they would. And also when you're yelling at someone, it's kind of like you're yelling at them, but you're not going to yell at them and be really articulate about your feelings about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we definitely cut out a lot out of that kind of section of it. And then and then also the very ending of the scene, like, I'd had thoughts about, maybe taking that out and keeping it in. But I ultimately, like, the scene of him breaking down was like the whole buildup of the movie. And so that scene was like a lot longer than it was. And we wanted to make sure, I specifically remember a note that I had that I wanted to like end on this wide shot of them, like in the wide shot of them hugging, to kind of give the characters and also the audience space for them to have that moment.
Sure.
So it's just like making so it's really about, in the editing room for me, was really about making each scene as strong as possible, and just trying to make a very like succinct idea going forward for each and every scene in the film.
How long was your shoot?
Oh, we shot about 3 days.
Wow.
4 days.
That's a hefty script for that. Yeah.
Yes. Luckily it was only one location. But yeah, it was tight. Like we were definitely racing the clock a lot. And it always feels that way too.
Sure. Oh yeah.
No matter
there's never enough time and there's never enough money.
If you're working on a Marvel movie or something, it doesn't matter.
Yep. I'm an action director, and I always say, no matter how much money you have, you never have as many cars as you wish you did.
Yeah. Or like never. And you always want more or something.
Yeah.
And you don't have enough of something, and you always have to figure it out. That's part of the magic of movie making. But yeah, it's about 3 or 4 day shoot.
And was there anything crazy that went wrong that you guys had to like scramble to fix, or any wacky production stories you're like, I will never forget this?
There were a lot of wacky production stories, but I think my producers really tried to shield me from it a lot. I think a guy got hurt on set and I didn't know about it until like
that's good producing.
It's good. And I was like, yeah, we had to take him to the hospital. I was like, what happened? He's fine. It's all good. It's just like, so you got hit on the head or something.
Sure.
But yeah, there was a lot of things that happened, but like, I think it was, it's being on set's really stressful. And I think for the most part, like the location we had was kind of weird. And we had to kind of roll with it. And so there were people there that were living there, and then we had to kind of like move in around them, and that was kind of weird. But like, yeah, so it was like a lot of weird stuff. What
are you like, what's one of the things you're proudest about, like, pulling off in this film?
That's a question. I think, completing it.
Sure. Yes, congratulations. Honestly, if anyone is watching this and they are not filmmakers, finishing a film is like...
Finishing a film is that. And that's the one thing about this particular, like, the thing that we were in is, like, we knew we were going to finish it.
Sure.
We had, like, there was a screening date that was due, and, like, it was they were giving us money to do it. So it wasn't like, it was like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, that it's gonna happen regardless. Yes. And it's gonna get done. So whether you want to send it to festivals or not, it'll be done. So that's one good, really good thing about it. But I think also, I think the acting in this film is really, really great. And I think we picked
fantastic.
really amazing actors. Will Cowlett is just phenomenal. You just breaks your heart every time you watch it.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the major things that I'm really proud of in this film.
And how did you get your cast?
We had a casting director, and they they went out to Will Catlett themselves, and they asked him, and they told him about the project. They told him about Project Involve, and he was interested in doing it. So we got him. Yeah. And he's great. I mean, I want him. I hope his career takes off and does.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done a lot of great things in the past, but like I want, I'm excited to see what he does next.
Yes.
For sure.
Cool. Well, it's an excellent movie. I really enjoyed it. It was gorgeous to watch from a visual standpoint and an emotional standpoint. So I really am grateful that I got to watch it and talk to you about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.